Hello, brothers and sisters. It reached until today when I knew that racism is spiritual. And some people will say that this is a hidden occult in religion, which makes me think that is this really possible? But look at the explanation that this black person gives us, because the video that you're about to watch really explains why racism is spiritual. It's a spell. It's a spell that was casted to black people. And I'm trying to understand. But sometimes, in as much as it is spiritual, it has also spiritually affected white people. Because understand that they are the pioneers of slavery. They are the ones that came with this idea that you can enslave a fellow human being and go away with it. I'm going to explain this. Maybe this is a different perspective from what he might say. But I just want you to listen to him because he shares some great points that are really, really important. See, the reason as to why the United States is the way it is today, it's because of racism. So argue with me. Racism is spiritual, and America is suffering spiritually because there's so many sin that is being caused in the United States. But look at the foundations. Look at the building blocks. Look at the basics of what really made the United States. It is from the blood and sweat of Black Americans. Black Americans were forcefully made to work for free. And some people somewhere enjoyed their labor because of slavery, because of racism. Brothers and sisters, I want us to look at this video and then I'll be back. I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. So let's watch the video. I'll be back.
I'm going to say this very slow. Racism is a type of witchcraft. Racism is a type of spell casting. Racism is a type of ritual. Yes, it is systematic injustice and all that other stuff. But hear me when I say that it started out as some weird occult nonsense. When you study the history of the people in power that orchestrated everything that we're going through, all the way back to the Portuguese and Spain and the split of the Prime Meridian, there has always been occultic forces. The word occult means hidden culture. The word cult means system of beliefs. What they believe, and listen to me, is that the black race, right, represents the old world. You can look this up. Look up the Theophany Society, okay? Look up the Knights of the Rose Order. Look up the Golden Circle. Like, for real, I'm being dead serious. Y'all don't really understand why these people believe in racism so much. It's not just hate, it's a religion. It is a form of ritual, okay? And the original forces of this world, especially through the 16 and 1700s, that started the mechanism of which we're dealing with today, is because this is a ritual, a form of destiny swapping, okay? When you read The Observation Concerning Mankind, People, and the Countries by Benjamin Franklin, written in 1755, you go to the last page, I think it's 224, he literally says that they brought Europeans over to America as a ritual for the gods of Mars and Venus, to homogenize them under the banner of whiteness to make a new people. He dead ass says that. And he says that he wants to take the sons of Africa and remove them from America. Okay? It was always a ritual. right? Isn't that why we have the apotheosis of George Washington in the Capitol building? You can look up and see him being depicted as a whole deity. Isn't that why the Washington Monument is the same as Osiris and it represents a phallic symbol? Is that why we have Greco-Roman structures all across this country representing the gods and deities of antiquity? Is this why JBL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories, which was foundational in NASA and sending us to the moon, founders were also occultists? Same with Henry Ford. Same with all the companies. The people that built New York were occultists, and that's why that's such a hub for all of this stuff. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? Because in reality, when you look up the definition of Negro from the 19th century Britannica, what you see is that it was an exonym that didn't just mean people in Africa. It was Malaysia, Australia, the Polynesian Islands, and Asia, right? So, and that represents the old world. That represents the East. So if you don't understand what racism really is, it's a form of destiny swapping. It's a form of making the majority the minority, giving power to the minority. This is why they're always talking about the great replacement theory and how the white race is dying out and they're not having children. They're being replaced by black and brown immigrants. They have been talking about this stuff for the last 400 years. And everything you've been seeing has to do with this fear. And they are literally using whole ass magic, witchcraft, to do it, to switch the dynamics of power, whether you believe in it or not. Racism is deeper than a form of systemic power within a caste system used to subjugate different people based on phenotypical expression. You look like this, so you're treated this way. Yes, that is the case. But there is a spiritual component to it, and this is why we can't get rid of it. Because people worship it, right? And what we have to understand is that the word Negro is really synergized with the alchemic word negrito or negredo. And they are trying to, off of the unaliving and mass destruction of black and brown civilizations. That's why the continent of Africa has been how it's been. That's why we're invading the global south, going into South America, attacking these countries. Because in reality, what is going on is that through the destruction of black and brown people, the white race will be able to transmute themselves into a new technocratic world where they fuse themselves with technology, transhumanism, with cybernetic enhancement, become the new pure race that's immortal, and they're cybernetically controlled to all technology, so they have access to all knowledge, and they're connected to all the drones and cameras, so they have pseudo omnipresence, and they'll be able to fling their arm and open up a door because it's all going to be automated. They'll be able to flick their hand and make money appear in your account like they're a deity because everything's going to be controlled through cryptocurrency. They're manufacturing the situation to literally make themselves God on earth. This is what they believe. So while, yes, racism and systematic injustice that all people deal with sucks within this prejudice infrastructure, but there is a mystic component to it. You know, even when we get into the word Caucasian, the reason why we call white people Caucasian, even though there's like an actual Asiatic type race in that area that's a little bit more darker, or tan or whatever, um, is because they thought there was a piece of the Noah's Ark in the Caucasus Mountains. So by calling Europeans Caucasian, that was a way, and back then during the era of pseudoscience, where they could connect their lineage to Adam. I'm being so dead serious. So whether you're religious or not, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to educate you on what the people in power believe and the function of racism and how they practice it as a spiritual belief of superiority. The Ku Klux Klan, they literally called themselves Grand Wizards, right? At the end of the day, all these groups perform rituals to invoke fear to hold power, and that is textbook magic. For people who understand what magic actually is, then you know these people are performing magic, straight up, straight up. And racism is a complex form of spell casting. It is. And we have to be aware of it because the stuff we're seeing and how they're trying to shift power. War is always the energy, the unaliving of all those bodies is always what they need to change the world. Like they did in World War I, World War II, now they're trying to do it again. To usher in the age of transhumanism and cybernetic demigods that walk the earth. So this is part 2 of how racism is actually a form of spirituality. It is a religion. And I think the best way to start this off in this part 2 is just breaking down the occult history of the United States itself. Okay, right? So right here, we're going to look at the United States Senate seal. And what you can see here is this liberty hat, right? This freedom hat. Really, this connects to the Roman cult of Mithras and Mithraism, right? A Roman deity who slaughters the cosmic bull. And the reason why this is important is because it actually connects to the myth folklore of Paul Bunyan and his giant cosmic bull as well. And what's so interesting is that depending on what images you look at, he has that same type of hat, right? And the reason why this is important is because this is the hat of the Magi that you also see in the Bible, right? The 3 Persian magicians that they changed to the 3 wise kings. And the reason why this is important is because you see, America has a cultic history. And what this history is about, the rebirth of the nation, right? The rebirth of the white race. When you look at the goddesses of America, right, and they have on this same hat, anytime you see this, this represents rebirth. They slaughtered the cattle, right? That's why they did chattel slavery. And with this sacrifice, here you have Manifest Destiny. Once again, the goddess Columbia. Wow, just like Colombian movie pictures. And what you understand is that everything in this nation is repackaged worship, right? And we have all the old gods housed everywhere around this country. And they're constantly being worshiped all over, even in DC in the Capitol building. We have homages to all types of deities. And what you understand, like even people in power understand, is that America is the new Rome, and America has been trying to harvest this energy, right? So when I talk about this document right here, the observation concerning the increase of mankind, people, and of countries by Benjamin Franklin. This is the most important document that will probably help you understand their thinking. Because think about how this is in 1755 and it's still the same issues. So what do we say? The number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All of Africa is black and tawny, Asia chiefly tawny, America exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, and French and Russians and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion. That's interesting. As the Germans are also. The Saxons, the only accepted, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. That's where we get Anglo-Saxon from. The Anglo was the English, and the Saxon was a German tribe. The Anglo-Saxons, these two groups, homogenized to make the pure white people on the face of the earth. I could wish their numbers were increased, and they were clearing America of its woods, so making this side of the globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of inhabitants in Mars or Venus. Once again, these Greco-Roman gods, the eyes of the inhabitants in Mars and Venus, they're worshiping these beings. And this is all a ritual to make a new people. And a lot of people don't understand this. So when you read the book Race or Mongrel by Alfred P. Schultz, they literally say that the absorbent capacity of every race, however, is limited. It is our conviction that we are absorbing and have absorbed countless numbers of highly specialized Celts, Slavs, Latins, Scandinavians, and Germans. It is a presumption indicating paranoia, and external evidence alone prevents us from asserting that we absorbed the Negro in 2 generations. Probably a small amount of Negro blood can be absorbed by a large white community in 50 or 100 generations. Every trace of Negro blood will have disappeared. So yes, they literally meticulously calculated on how to wipe us out. And yes, the United States was an experiment by these Anglo-Saxon people in power to homogenize all the different European races under this banner of whiteness. And a lot of people don't really understand that. So once again, right, he called the Spaniards, Italians, French, and Russians swarthy complexion. So what does swarthy mean? So when we look at swarthy, being a dark-hued dust complexion, tawny, in warm climates, the complexion of men is universally swarthy or black. The more Spaniards and Italians are more swarthy than the French, Germans, and English. So swarthy meant black, but y'all don't know that. Y'all don't know when y'all look up the anthropometamorphosis, man transformed, right? This was a document written in I want to say 1656 by John Bulwer, and you can see that they depicted even Indians as swarthy, right? Because when you look at the definition, Negroid as an exonym meant populations of Africa, Southern India, Malaysia, Australasia. It was anybody that was dark-skinned, varying from dark brown, reddish brown, whatever. So when y'all be having these, you know what I'm saying? These are useless conversations. Read this. Thus armed, the Indian with his dart and bow pursues with eager eye his woodland fowl. This is an Indian. Don't that look like a black man? Come on, what are we talking about? America. But look at that. Oops. Y'all ain't peep that the movie Atlantis on Disney is about us. But I been broke this down. Welcome to my page. Welcome to my page. Spanish for little Negro, Negrito, Malaysia. Oops, these people are heterogeneous to the land. That means they didn't migrate. Yeah, there are Negro phenotype people in Malaysia. That out of Africa theory even is a psyops to a degree. But y'all don't understand because they erased our history. You see, we used to be something completely different. But y'all don't understand swarthy and what that means. But nah, I'm super tapped in. And you know what I'm saying? We can go all day. Because I know we've always been there. I know that there were black kings in Europe. And they erased this history. This is called destiny swapping, y'all. Come on. Man, this heart is, hey, why is Saint Maurice a black saint on a coin in Germany in 1614? Go check it out in the museum. Go check this out. Y'all don't even know what's going on. Y'all don't even know one of the three wise magi was black. And they canonically depicted him as black. Man, this history gets so deep, and we're going to expose it. This is part 2. You know, a lot of people don't understand how they transmuted and stole our identity. You know what I'm saying? This gets real deep. I got so much, I don't even know where to go. But this is what I will say. We're going to talk about magic at this end of this video, because what is magic and how do they use it? So magic is the art of influencing or predicting events and producing marvels using hidden natural forces. Hidden natural forces. This phone right here is hidden natural forces. This has gold, iridium, cobalt, and this electro conductivity that it uses is unseen and hidden, right? And it can control the actions of superhuman beings, right? Or spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings, right? Spiritual or superhuman beings. That is us. So magic, magi, in its original root, just means craft or power. So this power that is being used that can be abused can be anything. And if you look, the root was techne, which is art, like arts and craft. So actually, anything with the power to influence you is a type of magic. It's that simple. It's actually not complicated. And Harry Potter and shows like Wizard of Waverly Place making it look all hairy, fairy, complicated, and spooky. That's all that is. All those monsters and stuff are just extinct species and races that they already killed off. Like, it's really not too deep, but it is. So, in part 3 of Racism is a Spiritual Belief in a Hidden Occult Religion, today we're going to talk about one of the most notorious secret societies in the United States called the Knights of the Golden Circle. The Knights of the Golden Circle started in 1859 by George Bickley, is the origin of the Ku Klux Klan, is the origin of the Proud Boys, is the origin of the Oath Keepers, etc., etc. They are the granddaddy of them all. And actually, when different white men join these smaller white nationalist organizations, it's really to get tested so then they can go into this higher Masonic white nationalist organization, which is called the Knight of the Golden Circle. And if you don't believe me in their validity, watch. So the first thing we're going to break down is when Donald Trump posted this picture of him with a Confederate officer hat on Truth Social when he declared war on Chicago, which is really a sly way to declare war on blacks, as Chicago is associated with blackness, right? So as you can see, he's wearing a Confederate officer hat. Nobody said nothing about this. One of the biggest Freudian slips of this year. And the reason why this is important is because when we get into who is the Knights of the Golden Circle, so this is a book that you should check out, The Knights of the Golden Circle by David King, Secret Empire, Southern Secession, Civil War. So as you can see of their detailed map that he posted on their book, they wanted to take over the Southern Hemisphere. And as you can see, they wanted to take over the Gulf of Mexico. Is that maybe why we renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America? Because Donald Trump is secretly, strategically a part of the Knights of the Golden Circle? You see, the Knights of the Golden Circle is so real that you can look up their documents in the Library of Congress, right? And when you look at their old pamphlets, as you can see from 1834 to 1861 here in Indianapolis, Indiana, they have all the occultic Masonic secrets. Now here, this is when it gets real. So this is a video from Virginia's for History Lovers.
Microfilm at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, I discovered repeated references to a secret society called the Knights of the Golden Circle. Many of the references were in the Louisville Journal, which was a noted paper throughout the country, edited by this gentleman, George Prentice. Prentice was a pro-union editor, and in these articles, he was saying things like, that the Knights were the central arm of the secession party in Kentucky. He said they had 6 castles in Louisville, and that there was a May convention in 1861 that was held at which 8,000 knights attended. Now, he was talking a lot about the head of the Knights, a gentleman called George Bickley. And this is Bickley, who appeared then in the Louisville Courier, which was a paper down the street from the Louisville Journal in central Louisville, which is the pro-South paper. And Bickley wrote a letter to the Louisville Courier. It was dated May 30th. He said that the Lincoln administration had instituted a legal crusade against his knights. He said that with regard to their secrecy, he had given their different rituals to the governor of Kentucky, Beriah Magoffin, and he confirmed that there were 8,000 knights, and said that the work will be pushed with the utmost vigor until the tricolored flag of the Confederate States floats in triumph over the dome of the Capitol in Frankfort. And that's the Capitol in.
So as you can see, this is a real secret organization. They were at war with Abraham Lincoln and his administration. Remember, Abraham Lincoln was a Melungeon. Now, if you watched my other previous videos, as you know, not all white people or Europeans were created equal. And actually, they anglicized them all, right? When you get into the Germans, the Swedes, the Russians, etc., they talked about them as if they were inferior. And the reason why this is important, and look, you can look at documents. There was once upon a time when they looked at the poor white, the non-anglicized, as equal to the Negro, right? America was a complex caste system. And this is why this is so important to understand this history. When you read The Negro in American History by John W. Cromwell, secretary of the American Negro Academy, a real black historian, he even says that in Virginia, the acts first passed were for mere regulations of servants. The legal distinction between a servant for a term of years, white immigrants under indenture, and servants for life, slaves. So when we get into the first slaves in America, the first slaves in America were white people. And the reason why this is important to understand when we talk about the subjugation and white supremacy, we have to understand that white supremacy is also supremacy over other Europeans, and it was a erasure. And before European colonialization, and they went into Asia, Africa, the Polynesian Islands, the Caribbean, South America, etc., they conquered their own people, right? There's these wars between the Franks and the Saxons. You know how we in white culture, they make fun of Goths, right? Well, when you study history and you study eugenics, what you learn is that the Visigoths were German, right? And the reason why that's important is because when you study that history, you know, they didn't look at Germans as equal either. So here's the book, Race or Mongrel. To the English, the German language was a barbaric tongue spoken by a race of heathens. The same eugenics cranium theory that they did to prove that the Negro was inferior, they did it to the Irish. See how they labeled them as Anglo? You know, they also called them monkeys too. This is all eugenics. But what happened is that the poor white got swindled by this guy to step on us. You see this in history, right? The reason why I'm from Louisville, I know all about it. The Fraser Museum, right? After slavery, Kentucky had one of the largest black populations. When we were freed, African Americans were driven out of the state, and others, black churches and schools were burned. More than 120 African Americans were unalive between 1857 and 1871, right? And what's so interesting is that when you read about the Freedmen's Bureau, Black Kentuckians by 1868, mind you, we was freed in 1863. We already built 250 schools with 10,000 plus students. But you know what happened? The Federal Bureau agents were unalived. Our schoolhouses was burned. Our teachers were beaten and everything. And the reason why this history is so important that they don't want to admit, and why it's important to understand the Knights of the Golden Circle, is because the Knights of the Golden Circle is who assassinated Abraham Lincoln. And guess what? John Wilkes Booth was a member of the Knights of the Golden Circle. And then when Andrew Johnson came in and rescinded the order of Special Field Order number 15, come on, y'all. This is Special Field Order number 15 that was signed by Abraham Lincoln that was going to give us the states of South Carolina, Georgia, and the Sea Islands. We was going to get land just like everybody else, because y'all forget that they got the Homestead Act before we was free in 1862, where they were able to get land for cheap. They gave out 270 million plus acres. While they was getting 160 acres, all we asked was for 40. And we didn't get our 40 acres, which was really going to be the two states of South Carolina, Georgia, and the Sea Islands, because of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln by this secret society. And they have been the ones orchestrating everything from behind the scenes. This is very serious. And they're everything you're seeing going on with Project 2025 is them. I tracked it. It's all them. And that's why I was telling y'all, be careful about what y'all saying on my post, bro, because these people is real. And y'all talking about some, oh, we ready to do this, we ready to do that. We don't got no cybernetic enhanced soldiers or no drone strike teams. So calm all that guerrilla warfare talk down on my account. Because it's...
Hello, brothers and sisters. After listening to the brother that shared all these important knuckles, I think it is safe to say that, indeed, racism is a spell. And somehow it also affected the people that benefited from all this occult that was done to black people. If you look at it deeply, it now starts to make sense. I mean, look at it keenly. You join the dots. It now starts to make sense. Look at this in this way. You were enslaved. You pillaged. You did all these things. And you think it's just natural, like it's just normal. No, it's not normal. Somebody said that it's demonic and it's not dealt with in white churches. They treat it as normal. The white church will call out everything else as demonic except the workings of white supremacy. And we have seen what white supremacy have done to America, and the cost of racism, and how racism has cost white people. And you think that still this is not something like a curse, or it's not something like evil. It is indeed. Somebody said that they are unaliving our children, our youths, our future. Oh dear Yahweh. Make that sun come down even hotter than ever, dear Heavenly Father. You know all about this, dear Lord. You knew their hearts before they were born. Let it burn. Let it burn, dear Lord. Amen. I mean, in as much as this is serious, but I still find it comic. I still find it comical. Anyway, the brother that spoke in this video really shared some things that are so much important. And it made me say things in a different way. I never looked at it in that way. I never saw it in that way. But it made me look at things like kidogo tu. It made me look at things in different ways, and made me understand that all these things are spiritual, because the same curse they pass to their own children. Look at how some of these young white kids behave. in schools, what they do in churches. They are alive, and it's normal to them. And somebody said that in white supremacy is a curse they pass on their children. They could exercise that evil, but generation after generation they curse their own with extraordinary lack of discernment that white supremacy creates. Up is down and left is right is their soul. This is true. This is really true. Honestly, people are speaking about this, but I really love how the brother that spoke on the video was really accurate, because he gave accurate account and he made me look at things and he made me see things that I didn't think I'll see, or I didn't think I'd see it in that way. This video really helped me learn and see the reality of the things, brothers and sisters. So please let me know what you'll think about this video, right? Let me know what you'll think about this. As you know, I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Stories, but until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.